So we are definitely celebrating and so honored that each of you are here with us. My name is Melissa, for any of you that don't know me, but I think I've met everyone now that you've been with us at least once before. So excited to have you back. Imaginarium is a nonprofit. We're an initiative of Faith and Culture Center. So thankful for them and their willingness to take us under their wing and fiscally sponsor us these past 3 years. But we're ultimately a space to imagine a better world and then figure out how we each as individuals and as a community intentionally then make that better world so daily. Our centering values are the belief in the inherent worth of each and every person and each and every living thing. So that includes the world around us. We call it inherent magic, actually. Our inherent connection then to each other and the world around us. And finally, then figuring out what our inherent responsibility is then to ourselves, to each other, and to the world around us. We have practices that we do every time we gather, and we're going to do those and participate in those now. First, I want to give you a heads up that because this is a celebration, we always end our gatherings with a toast, but today some of you may have seen the note. We ask that you bring some champagne or pop some sparkling water or whatever. So I just want you to have a heads up that we will do that at the very end of the gathering today. I have my Veuve Clicquot ready because, again, this is an important day for all of us. So the first practice that we do together, we affectionately call the naming practice. And it is simply a couple things. It's an opportunity to introduce or reintroduce yourself to us. It's an opportunity for you to remember that we're asking that you take up your space during this hour and a half with us, that you use your voice, that you know that your voice matters. And ultimately also to do this practice reminds you hopefully that you should be taking up your space in this world, that you matter, and that sometimes some of us take up too much space and other times some of us are not taking up enough of our space. So this is a practice to remind us of that. So we just want to go around the Zoom, if you will. I'll call you out just by way of, that's the easiest way we can do it on Zoom. And I'm asking and inviting you to let us know your name, your location, your preferred pronouns, and any other way or word that you want to define yourself through today. And if there's not another word, that's okay too. At least name, location, and preferred pronouns. So I'll start, and I have a few people with me in this space this afternoon, literally on my back porch. You can hear the crickets. So Melissa, she, her, hers. We're in Franklin, Tennessee. And the word I like to describe myself as is a habitual learner, words I should say. So that's me.
Hi, Cindy Hoppus, sitting here on Melissa's back porch, she, her. My word is helper.
Lovely.
Hi, I'm with Melissa and Cindy on Melissa's back porch with Ben, and I'm Rick.
Rick?
Hello, everyone. Ben here.
There we go. All right, Malia, you're up.
Hi, I'm Malia, she, her, hers. I'm in Brentwood, Tennessee. That's me.
Lovely. Glad you're with us. Leah.
Hi, I'm Leah. My pronouns are she, her. I live in Madison, Tennessee. And I don't have a word right now.
And Nathan, who is actually Ashley.
I'm Ashley, she, her, hers. I am in Nathan's office in Lebanon, Tennessee.
And Ashley's running point on us for all things Zoom, so thank you, Ashley.
Thank you. Be nice to me.
I am. TC, you are up. I know you as TC at least via Facebook, but.
TC's the nickname. Tacima is my birth name. She, her, hers, Tampa, Florida. My word is resilient.
Ah, love that. So glad you're here. Sarah.
I'm Sarah, she, her, hers, coming from Nashville, and my word is courageous.
Love it. Hausers.
Hi, I'm Chris from Brentwood, Tennessee. He, his. My word is made up. Hopeaholic.
My name is Linda. I don't have a preference. And I'm not sure if we're supposed to just be giving a positive word, but right now I'm just overwhelmed.
No, we want honest words. We like it. Thank you both. Mr. Tapper.
Hey, Ben here from Indianapolis, Indiana. He, him, his. My word is purpose.
Love it. Sam.
What's up? I'm Sam. He, him, and my word, I didn't think this far ahead. I think I'll just go with that. I didn't think this through.
Love it. Love it, Swag. I should have said last names. I'm so sorry. Let's go back also to Sam B.
Oh, hi. I'm Sam, he, him, his. I'm in Nashville, and I'm feeling pretty good, I guess.
Love it. Glad you're here, both of you. Haroon.
Hey, I'm Haroon. He, him. I'm from Nashville, and I'll go with curious.
Love it. Monica.
She, her, hers. I'm from Spring Hill, Tennessee. And I think 2 words, struggling persistence, lately especially.
Thank you for that. Mr. Day.
Hello, everybody. Doug Day, Franklin, Tennessee. He, him, and just very happy and thankful, and would just like to say how I just love to see everybody today. Thank you guys for being here. Wow, it's just really just great to see everybody today.
Love it. Erin.
Hi, I'm Erin. I'm in Franklin, Tennessee, and my pronouns are she, her. Tassima, I was gonna say I'm from Tampa, so high fives over the Zoom.
Love it. Mr. Oxley. Wait, you're muted. Hold. Now
I'm not. Hey, Randy Oxley from Antioch, Tennessee, and my word for the weekend is investigative.
Very true to form. I love it. Matt Carr.
Hey everybody, I'm Matt Carr from Huntington, West Virginia. My pronouns are he, him, and I would call myself a sojourner.
Love it. Glad you're here. Lauren.
Hey everybody, I'm Lauren Pilney. I'm in Nashville right now. My preferred pronouns are she and her. And my word is pregnant because I'm feeling every sensation of being 9 months pregnant right now. So really embodying that literally.
Love it. Speaking for 2, literally.
Mm-hmm.
Mr. Greenewalt.
Hi, my name's Ryan from East Nashville. He, him, his, and I don't think I have a word today. Sorry.
No need to apologize. Glad you're here. Alan.
Hi, I'm Al. Transgender, so my biological name is Alan, but I prefer to be called Alana. And my pronouns are she, hers, and I am from Houston.
Love it. Abby Lane.
Hello, I'm Abby Lane, East Nashville, Tennessee, and she, her, hers. And today my word would be plant mom. I'm going to be repotting all my plants.
Love it. Love it. Love it. Okay, let me see. Christy.
Ooh. Hi, my name's Christy Bryson. This is my first time joining. Pronouns she, her, hers. Matt invited me. He thought this would be a group I'd really enjoy, so I'm glad to be here.
Oh, so glad you're here.
Hey, welcome.
Welcome. And then Elizabeth Mullins.
Elizabeth, she, her, here in Nashville. My word would be, what would my word be? Persistent.
Persistent. Love it. Okay, I think that's everyone. I'm trying to scan back and forth. If I missed you, speak now, please. But hopefully we didn't miss you. Okay, so glad that everyone is here. We're going to move on to the next practice, which Lauren is leading.
Hi again. Yeah, I'm ready for this practice this week. This has been a heavy week for, I think, so many of us for all sorts of different reasons. And I was texting with Melissa. Melissa, I hope you don't mind me sharing. You were telling us that you were feeling a little bit heavy one day. And that sensation didn't catch up to me, I think, until the next day. And then I started sort of feeling all the same things that you felt. And I think as a community, you know, we try our best to name the good every time we meet, for those of you that have joined before, but I think it's been hard to balance looking all of the crazy, heartbreaking events that are happening right in the face, and staring that down and not avoiding it, balancing that piece with naming the good has been a tough balance to find, I think, this entire year. For some of us, probably, maybe that's just always a hard balance to find. Whether you're, for me, it's been like social media has been the challenge of wanting to stay up with everything that's happening and be knowledgeable and not stick my head in the sand, but also trying to find moments throughout my days of like, okay, I got to find some good stuff going on because I can't live in this place constantly. So this particular practice, especially this week, is really, I need it really bad this week, of setting aside dedicated time, intentional time to name what's good and name the helpers and name what we're seeing that's positive in this world. So that's what we're going to do. It could be small things that are happening in your day to day. It could be big systemic change that maybe somebody's seeing, or helpers out in the public sphere that you're seeing. But we just want to take really intentional time to name what those are, because right now it's just a barrage of sad and hard and overwhelming. And yeah, so that's where we're at. You can just unmute yourself or raise your hand and we'll call on you. I'm hoping we have so many people that the floodgates open and we have to take turns today. So please dig deep, people. Tell us the good things that are going on. Who wants to start?
I have something.
Yay, please go, Elizabeth.
So I have my first day off both of my jobs since July 4th, and I'm really excited, and I'm reading a really good fiction book.
What is the book? First,
it's called The Seven and a Half Deaths of Evelyn Hardcastle.
I've seen this.
Mm-hmm.
And it's great. You love it?
It's good so far. I love it. Yeah. So
I love both of those things, Elizabeth. Thank you for sharing that.
Lauren, can you help us sing the song before we move forward?
I just like get so up in my, like, I got to get all my talking points out. Yes, let's sing the song. Everyone, please take yourself off mute. It's important that this chaos happens all together. I'm going to sing it through for you once, and then I'll count us off and we'll do it together. The song is, tell me something good. And on 5, 6, 7, 8, we're all going to do this thing together. Everybody, Ryan, you're still on mute. Make sure you come off mute. I really need your voice. 5, 6, 7, 8. Tell me something good.
I heard mostly Randy, so I think it turned out pretty well.
That is always exactly what I need, Melissa. Thank you so much. Okay, what else is going on?
Something really small, but I, for the first time, used a weed eater this weekend, and I purchased one, and I used it, and it was very cathartic. And I know we celebrate, like, you know, marriage and births, but like celebrating like gender norms being crushed, and like, you know, like I can do hard things as a single woman, and it was awesome. So yes.
Awesome. I'm obsessed with that because I'm terrified of the weed eater. So I'm like really, truly
So
proud
easy.
of you.
I will teach you.
Amazing.
I have one on that note. Benny, my lovely partner, decided for the first time ever in his life that he was going to fix our sink, and he did it. It was leaking, and it's no longer leaking, and we celebrate you, Benny, and your hard work.
Celebrating you, Benny. So proud.
That's awesome.
Love it. Hey, Leah.
All right.
Leah's up next.
I am so excited this week because I have a new place to live. I have been looking for one for a few months, and the current place I live is stressful with my roommates. And I found a place that is within my budget and closer to the city, and it's all by myself. So I've never had a place all by myself, so that's a little scary, but mostly I'm very excited, and I'm glad that I found it.
Yay, congrats. That's huge. What a relief. I love that.
I got one.
Go for it, Ashley.
To follow in Sarah's footsteps and beating gender norms. My husband, also my name, Nathan, who never ever cooks, decided that he is going to start making some meals. So the first step of the 5 is that he has purchased the top of the line wok and wok spoon and what have you. But let's all send him like lots and lots of encouragement to follow through and cook dinner.
That's amazing. I feel like getting nice stuff is like the first step because then you're really excited to use it. So I feel like he's going down a positive path here.
Yes. So
Amazing.
Send him notes of encouragement.
Great. Will do.
Ashley, I've heard of this program called Hello Fresh that might be good for him.
Oh, yeah. You know, I bought that and I gave him a bag one time and I told him to cook it and he just sort of looked at me. So we'll try it.
Maybe now that he has the wok.
Maybe now if HelloFresh has like a wok meal. I'll have to look for that.
So now he has to walk the walk.
Oh, yes.
I think Alan was going next. Alan, you had your hand up.
I'm in the process of working on going back to school. I will be going back to school to study mortuary science. Be a mortician. Yeah.
Excellent.
And also, since I recently came out, I had a couple of friends ask me because I've switched so many times. I was gay, then bisexual, then gay, and now I'm trans. So it's sort of like they're wanting to know where I'm at, and they keep asking me like if I'm going to transition, when I'm going to transition, and I kind of have to say, people think that you only come out of the closet once. It isn't that simple. You have to come out of several doors. The scenery starts out pleasant because you travel to the safe places first. As you move from room to room, the ambiance gets a little more strenuous and harsh. But you open the big door and see all the good rooms lumped together to make the perfect mansion. And that is the place you stay.
That's lovely.
Very good.
Thank you for sharing that, Alan. Chris.
This is a little bit embarrassing, but we binge watched all 3 Bill and Ted's Excellent Adventure movies this weekend. We were too religious in 1989 and 1992, especially when they go to hell. No way. I mean, we were vineyard church planters. We did not mess around with anything having to do with hell in 1992. So, and again, like we'll never get that I don't know, 4.5, 5 hours back. I'm sure of it. And it was just so dumb. But the last 5 minutes of the new movie are freaking transcendent and speak to oneness and unity. And I was ready to full on heave cry like Big Fish does to me in that closing scene of Big Fish. That's what I almost did last night watching Bill and Ted's Face the Music. I can't explain it. It was just so deep and beautiful. And you don't spend $20 to rent it. Wait for Redbox or something.
And then fast forward.
Yeah, then fast forward or something. I don't know, but I'm just telling you, it was a profound moment for me last night. So
Love that for you. Anybody else? All right. Hmm?
I think Matt Carr, your hand is up. You mean it's yeah.
Hey guys, I guess my if I had to tell me something good, last night I had a really long, beautiful conversation with a friend who I think is an amazing human being because of what he's been through in life. He is gay and also has Asperger's syndrome. And we talked probably for over an hour last night. And I learned a lot about his experience. I mean, not only, the discrimination in this area with, his orientation, but then also like some of the stuff he went through with his own family because of his, being differently abled. And it just made me see how toxic ableism is and maybe how unconsciously I've participated in that, the cultural construct of it. And it just made me want to literally, like the Imaginarium motto, imagine a better world and intentionally make it so. And I think it kind of starts here in these types of settings. So.
I love that, Matt. Thank you for sharing that.
You're welcome.
Great. Thanks for sharing oh, sorry, Linda. Go, please.
Not a big deal, but in between watching Ted and Bill's excellent adventures, I've been listening to Trevor Noah's book, Born a Crime, and it is so good. So good. I would give it more than 5 stars. I think everyone should listen to it. So he just tells amazing stories about his childhood, and it's without preaching at you, you're learning so much about systemic racism because of apartheid in South Africa, but how it's very difficult for me not to see it as a template, a worldwide template. And yet he tells it all through such charming stories of his childhood and his relationship with his mom that it's my Tell Me Something Good for the week.
Cool.
Moving it up my list. That's a good reminder. Thanks for sharing. All right, anybody else? Okay, great. Thanks for sharing, y'all. It was really good to share in these good moments with you. Appreciate you all being here.
Love it. Thank you, Lauren. So 2 other things that we have made a part of the rhythm of our gatherings and our practices are 2 different acknowledgements. And one of them is the land acknowledgement, and Miss Sarah leads them.
So we just want to take a moment to acknowledge the land wherever you are, to acknowledge the erasure of the people of the land, to acknowledge those who once inhabited the land, and to know that at Imaginarium, acknowledging the land is a way of imagining a better way and making it so. And it's the beginning of a healing for us and the land. And so today we acknowledge in Nashville, this is the land of the Shawnee, once inhabited by the Shawnee, knowing that we cannot own land. And then I want to leave you with this quote from Chief Seattle, who was a part of the Suquamish tribe in Washington State. And he says, "This we know, the earth does not belong to us. We belong to the earth. All things are connected like the blood that unites one family. Whatever befalls the earth befalls the children of the earth. We do not weave the web of life. We are only a strand of it. Whatever we do to the web, we do to ourselves."
Lovely. Thank you, Sarah. She put it in the chat as well. I appreciate that. Our other acknowledgement is our anti-racism acknowledgement, and Erin's going to read that over us.
We as a community recognize that white supremacy and systemic racism are an insidious part of our world. Intentional or not, we recognize the harmful impact of its presence in our lives and the many ways in which it impacts the Black, Indigenous, and people of color members of this community and other communities around us. We commit ourselves to an active practice of anti-racism. We commit to rooting out and addressing racism whenever and wherever we find it, starting within each of us, but extending into our communities and the greater world around us.
Thank you, Erin. Our last practice is our embodiment practice, and it's typically led by Haven, my daughter. She's dancing this afternoon, taking classes in the living room. That's why we're out on the porch. But I thought it would be fun, since this is our 3-year anniversary, to pull up the video from when we first introduced this practice. So I'm going to share my screen. I think, yes. Stop. Share. Okay, lovely. Okay, and we're gonna watch this.
Do me a favor. I want you to put your hands together. I want to teach us just a simple little practice that we can use when life gets chaotic or hard, or life gets loud as it has tonight. I was like, oh, the children are here. They're so loud. Okay, it's fine. So sometimes we need to put our hands together, and I try to teach Ben to do this, and he says, I don't think I can do it, but can you separate your fingers and go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Try it. Thumb, finger, 3, 4, 5. Okay, so with that, say stop, breathe, know your worth. Stop, breathe, know your worth. Stop, breathe, know your worth. See.
So can we do it? If you weren't already doing it, I'm gonna stop screen sharing somehow. I'm not sure how to do that, but oh, here we go, stop share. Forgive me, my lack of knowledge. Okay, let's do that together. Stop, breathe, know your worth. One more time. Stop, breathe, know your worth. That practice hopefully enables us to trust our bodies and to be reminded of your inherent magic and worth. Hopefully all of these practices are healthy reminders for all of us. Thank you for all of that. The last thing that I want to do by way of practice is offering just a moment of lament. As Lauren already has spoken to, and so many of you I know are feeling, this week, this month, this summer, this year is heavy. It has been heavy. It's been very overwhelming for so many reasons, for so many people in this world, and for so many of us. And so because of that, Alan even mentioned earlier this week in our community group on Facebook, like it would be lovely to take a moment and just name a name of someone who has been meaningful to you that maybe you have lost during this season. And I want to extend it from beyond this moment or this day or this month, and really to be inclusive of this season. When we lose people like in the entertainment world, Chadwick Boseman this weekend, it hit so heavy for so many reasons, because one, the amazing like stamp that he's made on the world of entertainment and on behalf of Black community and Black culture to finally get representation in such a way. Obviously that was so impactful, not to mention all the many other movies he did besides Black Panther, which were also moving and great. But we lost Chadwick this week. We lost, oh, sorry. Somebody was trying to say something. Maybe that's an accident. We've lost so many people during this time. And I just wanted us to have a moment, if you want, and if it's helpful for you, to name someone, whether that's been a family member. I lost my grandfather during this season of COVID, not because of COVID, but during this pandemic. A grandmother, excuse me. Oh my gosh. Thank you, Susie. So for us to take a moment and to name someone that is meaningful to you that you have lost, whether it's someone that's actually close to you or someone that you just know of that you were attached to through our lovely world of social media, we wanted to take a moment and create a space for us to name those people. So you can do this popcorn style, just unmute yourself if you have someone to share.
My person I would like to honor is Matthew Shepard, who passed away. He was murdered in 1998 when I was just like 10 years old. I hadn't really understood the story because when I was 10, I remember seeing the face, but I didn't really understand what was going on. But then I watched a documentary a couple years ago, and it just, for some reason, hit me really hard, and I literally grieved. And so that's someone I kind of wanted to, because you start to realize his life and the kind of person he was, and just to know the beautiful person he was on the inside, it was just heartbreaking to know that such a good person who was meant for more had to be cut short. So I just wanted to remember him.
One of our best friends years ago, Mike Grimness, out of Franklin, died suddenly, shockingly, a couple months ago.
In the entertainment celebrity world, the very first week of this train wreck called 2020, one of my favorite musicians died, Neil Peart. Not only did I mimic every note he ever played on a drum set, but his lyrics taught me to think. And as a 13-year-old, I'll never forget the first line that hit me. I still think of it to this day. Can any part of life be larger than life? Even love must be limited by time. What if you're not limited by time was my question back when I was 13. And that man taught me to think in a lot of ways. And I'm really sad to see him go. It was hard for me to deal with. Still is, honestly, it really is.
Thank you, Monica. Anybody else? So we take this moment then to honor their lives and to honor the impact that we know they made, not only to the people close to them, but ultimately on this world, as we believe we're all connected, and therefore they have impacted us by their life and their death as well. Thank you for that time. We were coming up on this 3-year anniversary, and I'm also, obviously we're in the midst of a heavy political season, which adds to the overwhelming air, right, in which we're trying to breathe and find our way through. And so I was really trying to consider what would be helpful for us to discuss and to put in front of us. And I was reminded of this really fabulous book, which is a huge book by Jeremy Rifkin called The Empathic Civilization. Have any of you read this book? Empathic Civilization. I think it came out, I'm trying to look across the screen. I think it came out in 2009, maybe 2010. He ended up doing an amazing TED Talk on it, which somebody put to an artistic creative. And I want us to watch that together. It's like 10 minutes. And then hopefully that's going to spur on some good conversation out of it. So Ashley's going to share that screen with us, and we'll watch this and then we'll discuss. Ashley, can you restart it and unmute it, please?
Sorry about that. Bear with me here. Speaking of being technology impaired.
I know how to do it on mine if it doesn't work.
I got it.
In the last 10 years, there's been some very interesting developments in evolutionary biology, neurocognitive science, child development research, and many other fields, which is beginning to challenge some of these long-held shibboleths that we've had about human nature and the meaning of the human journey. But there is another frame of reference emerging in the sciences, which is quite interesting. It really challenges these assumptions. And with that, the institutions that we have created based on those assumptions, our educational institutions, our business practices, our governing institutions, etc. Let me take you back to the early 1990s, sleepy little laboratory in Parma, Italy, and scientists had a MRI brain scanning machine on a macaque monkey as the macaque monkey was trying to open up a nut. They wanted to see how the neurons would light up. So the monkey's trying to open up the nut, the neurons light up, and just by serendipity, and this is how science sometimes happens, a human being walked into the laboratory, I don't know if it was by mistake, and he was hungry, he saw the nuts and opened up one of the nuts and tried to crack it open. The macaque monkey was totally shocked because who was this invader in his laboratory? And he didn't move. He just gazed at this human trying to open up the nut, just like he had done a few seconds earlier. And then the scientist looked on the MRI brain scanner. The same exact neurons were lighting up when he observed the human being opening the nut as when the monkey opened the nut. And the scientists had not a clue as to what this was. They thought the MRI machine had broken. They then began to put MRI brain scanning machines on other primates, especially chimpanzees with our big neocortex. Then they went to humans. And what they found over and over again is something called mirror neurons. And that is that we are apparently soft-wired, some of the primates, all humans. We suspect elephants. We're not sure about dolphins and dogs. We've just begun. But all humans are soft-wired with mirror neurons so that if I'm observing you, your anger, your frustration, your sense of rejection, your joy, whatever it is, and I can feel what you're doing, the same neurons will light up in me as if I'm having that experience myself. Now, this isn't all that unusual. We know if a spider goes up someone's arm and I'm observing it going up your arm, I'm going to get a creepy feeling. We take this for granted, but we are actually soft-wired to actually experience another's plight as if we are experiencing ourselves. But mirror neurons are just the beginning of a whole range of research going on in neuropsychology and brain research and in child development that suggests that we are actually soft-wired not for aggression and violence and self-interest and utilitarianism, that we are actually soft-wired for sociability, attachment, as John Bowlby might have said, affection, companionship, and that the first drive is the drive to actually belong. It's an empathic drive. What is empathy? It's very complicated. When little babies enter nursery and one baby cries, the other babies will cry in response. They just don't know why. That's empathic distress. It's built into their biology. Around 2.5 years of age, a child actually can begin to recognize himself in a mirror. That's when you begin to mature empathy as a cultural phenomenon. And that is once a toddler can identify themselves, then they know that if they're observing someone else have a feeling, they know that if they feel something, it's because they're feeling it because someone else has it. They're two separate beings. Selfhood goes together with empathic development. Increasing selfhood, increasing empathic development. Around 8 years of age, a child learns about birth and death. They learn where they came from, that they have a one and only life, that life is fragile and vulnerable, and one day they're going to die. That's the beginning of an existential trip. Because when a child learns about birth and death and they have a one and only life, they realize how fragile and vulnerable life is. It's very tough being alive on this planet, whether you're a human being or a fox navigating the forest. So when a child learns that life is vulnerable and fragile, and that every moment is precious, and that they have their own unique history, it allows the child then to experience another's plight in the same way. That other person or other being, could be another creature, has a one and only life. It's tough to be alive, and the odds are not always good. So if you think about the times that we've empathized with each other or fellow creatures, it's always because we felt their struggle. We have the width of death and empathy and the celebration of life. And we show solidarity with our compassion. Empathy is the opposite of utopia. There is no empathy in heaven. I guarantee you, I'll tell you before you get there. There isn't any empathy in heaven because there's no mortality. There's no empathy in utopia because there is no suffering. Empathy is grounded in the acknowledgement of death and the celebration of life and rooting for each other to flourish and be. It's based on our frailties and our imperfections. So when we talk about building an empathic civilization, we're not talking about utopia. We're talking about the ability of human beings to show solidarity, not only with each other, but our fellow creatures who have a one and only life on this little planet. We are Homo empathicus. So here's the question. We know that consciousness changes in history. The way our brain is wired today is not the way a medieval serf's brain would be wired, and their brain wouldn't be the same as the wiring of a forager hunter 30,000 years ago. So the question I asked at the beginning of this study 6 years ago is, how does consciousness change in history? Because I wanted to imagine the following proposition. Is it possible that we human beings who are soft-wired for empathic distress, is it possible we could actually extend our empathy to the entire human race as an extended family, and to our fellow creatures as part of our evolutionary family, and to the biosphere as our common community? If it's possible to imagine that, then we may be able to save our species and save our planet. And what I say to you tonight, if it's impossible to even imagine that, I don't see how we're going to make it. Empathy is the invisible hand. Empathy is what allows us to stretch our sensibility with another so that we can cohere in larger social units. To empathize is to civilize. To civilize is to empathize. With forager hunter societies, communication only extended to the local tribe and shouting distance. Everyone over in the next mountain was the alien other. So empathy only extended to blood ties. When we went to the great hydraulic agricultural civilization, script allowed us to extend the central nervous system and to annihilate more time and space and bring more people together. And the differentiation of skills and the increasing selfhood not only led to theological consciousness, but empathy now extended to a new fiction. And that is, instead of just associating with one's blood ties, we detribalized and began association based on religious ties. So a new fiction, Jews start to see all other Jews as extended family and empathize with Jews. Christians start to see all other Christians as extended family and empathize with Christians. Muslims, the same. When we get to the 19th century, the Industrial Revolution, and we extend markets now to larger areas and create a fiction called the nation state. And all of a sudden, the Brits start to see others in Britain as extended family. The Germans start to see Germans as extended family. The Americans as Americans. There was no such thing as Germany. There was no such thing as France. These are fictions. But they allow us to extend our family so that we can have loyalties and identities based on the new complex energy communication revolutions we have that annihilate time and space. But if we have gone from empathy in blood ties to empathy in religious associational ties to empathy based on national identification, is it really a big stretch to imagine the new technologies allowing us to connect our empathy to the human race writ large in a single biosphere? And what reason would we stop here at the nation-state identity and only have ideological empathy or theological-based empathy or tribal-based blood tie empathy? We have the technology that allows us to extend the central nervous system and to think viscerally as a family, not just intellectually. When that earthquake hit Haiti, and then Chile, but especially Haiti, within an hour, the Twitters came out, and within 2 hours, some cell phone videos, YouTube, and within 3 hours, the entire human race was in an empathic embrace coming to the aid of Haiti. If we were, as the Enlightenment philosophers suggested, materialistic, self-interested, utilitarian, pleasure-seeking, it couldn't account for the response to Haiti. Apparently, 175,000 years ago in the Rift Valley of Africa, there were about 10,000 anatomically modern human beings walking the grasslands, our ancestors. The geneticists located one database woman. It's a database line. Apparently, her genes passed to everyone in this room tonight. The other ladies didn't make it. Gets even more strange. They located a single male. This is a database line for genetics. They call him the Y chromosome Adam. Apparently a fairly potent guy. His genes passed to everyone in this room. So here's the news. 6.8 billion people at various stages of consciousness, theological, ideological, psychological, dramaturgical. We're all fighting with each other with different ideas about the world, and well, guess what? We all came from two people. The Bible got this one right. We could have come from many, but the point is we have to begin thinking as an extended family. We have to broaden our sense of identity. We don't lose the old identities of nationhood and our religious identities and even our blood ties. But we extend our identity so we can think of the human race as our fellow sojourners and our other creatures here as part of our evolutionary family, and the biosphere as our community. We have to rethink the human narrative. If we are truly Homo empathicus, then we need to bring out that core nature. Because if it doesn't come out and it's repressed by our parenting, our educational system, our business practice and government, the secondary drives come. The narcissism, the materialism, the violence, the aggression. If we can have a global debate, let it start here from the British Royal Society for the Arts, which apparently you're doing, to begin rethinking human nature, to bring out our empathic sociability so that we can rethink the institutions of society and prepare the groundwork for an empathic civilization.
Love it. Thank you, Ashley. All right, so initial thoughts, response. What does that bring up for you? The one thing I definitely disagreed with is that dogs are not empathetic. They are. They are also empathetic. I have lots of thoughts to share, but I want to hear from y'all first. Does that resonate with you? Do you feel like, nope, good theory, not so much reality?
My first expression is wow. That was a lot to take in. I consider myself more of an agnostic, so actually it kind of makes some sense to me that empathy was inbred, because you even go back to the dinosaurs. You had a T-Rex who would care for their eggs, their young, and they would literally die for their young. I mean, they might be carnivores, but they do have empathy towards something. And that kind of shows that I kind of feel, going all the way back and going over the course, that animals, humans, we choose who we want to be empathetic to. And to me, that's transcended through all the generations. And I think, imagine the world where we could take that empathy and reach out to everybody, instead of just an extended, just this group over here. So yeah, that makes a lot of sense to me, because we had to come, there had to be a first man and a first woman. We had to have, whoever it was, and they had empathy for something. And so, yeah, that to me kind of shows, that we can kind of work towards making more of a whole thing.
Yeah.
That makes sense.
Yeah, I appreciate that commentary. Thanks, Alan. Somebody else.
There's a lot there, Melissa. There really is. The first part of this, when spoke to the human element of emotional componentry, which is one of my bigger. I love that kind of stuff. I can't say I got lost in this, but I would love to have a link to this video if you share that later, to actually go over this again, because there's so much in here. There really is.
Yeah, I'll share this to the, I can share the chat. I can also put it on our group page.
Okay,
Thank you. Matt.
This brought up a lot for me. I'd actually never heard of, I guess, Dr. Rifkin before. He seems to be, correct me if I'm wrong, and I don't want to get off on a tangent, but he seems to be saying that, like, our natural nature is empathic, but the empathy is then routed through, like, our familial structures, religious structures, work, the patriarchy and all of its accompanying structures. You filter that empathy only toward, your own, or people like yourself. It actually reminds me, I'm reading a book right now, Emergence, The Shift from Ego to Essence by Barbara Marx Hubbard. She passed away last year, but there's a quote in there that kind of resonated with me, and I think it relates to this. Please stop me if it doesn't. But she says in the introduction, what is a universal human? It is one connected through the heart to the whole of life, a person awakening from within by a deep heart's desire to express and give his or her gifts into the world. A universal human is attracted to the future, progressing to the unknown, toward the unknown, imbued with a mysterious sense of what's emerging, seeking to join with others to co-create a new and better world. That just, I don't know, it kind of, I kind of connected that with what I thought was maybe his goal, at least on a spiritual level. So I'm sorry, I'll stop rambling. That's my thought.
Not rambling. I love all of that. Would you share that quote and that book in the chat, please?
Absolutely. Yeah, give me just a second here.
Somebody else. And it can be pushed back.
Yeah, so kind of to piggyback on what Matt said as far as the empathy, I think about people in my family that don't necessarily have the same political views as me, and their empathy is like very much limited to their own, and it's very like strict empathy. So it's not that they're not empathetic, it's just they're, you know, and when he was talking about like, okay, first like blood ties, then religion, and then nation, and it's like it just kind of stops at a certain point. And so the like what propels one person to extend that empathy beyond the like the easy to see.
Great question. And don't we wish we had that answer? I think you're spot on.
It made me wonder how much our capability to expand our empathy is tied to story. So I think specifically about kind of the onset of nation states. And from my understanding, those didn't come about because like populations at large rose up and decided, yeah, we're going to call ourselves this new thing called the nation, right? It's very much the people in power defined how the borders were going to be decided, and then created like a story about the populace within that borders that then was adopted, right? And so I wonder how narrative shapes either constraining or kind of allows our empathy to expand.
Gavin, I resonate with all that. Also, you're dropping wisdom while driving. Be so careful. I love it. Yeah, I think I think you're spot on. What you just said at the end is so important, that it can either, we create stories to help us make sense of the world that we've experienced, or in listening to stories, it can open us up so we can further empathize with more people. Love it. Somebody else.
Had me thinking about a book that I'm reading, Begin Again by Eddie Glaude, and he talks about the value gap. And looking at America and America's founding, white lives are more valued than Black lives, people of color. So in looking at empathy, you only empathize, well, you hope you empathize with everyone, but the dehumanization that takes place in order to not empathize, and not allow the empathy to grow, that you have to possibly teach your children. Don't go help that man. Don't, you know, whatever the situation is. So just that other side of it. It's an interesting concept.
Yeah. Thank you for that. I also love that book. If you want to drop that in the chat, please.
I'm curious about the science behind there being everybody starting with one man and one woman. Does he go into that at all more in the book than just highlighting here?
I actually don't know. It's like a 500-page book that I have skimmed. I have not read it in its entirety.
I think just that fact alone, I've been thinking recently just how the theory of evolution, and then the eugenics that kind of came out of that, the idea that there is a difference between races, how all of that has perpetuated racism, and how if instead we'd been taught that we all came from common parents, I mean, we were biblically, you know, and Christianity talks about that, and I'm sure that there are other religions that start with that story as well, but that still became very tribal, owned by a tribal sort of mentality. If we could revisit that, but we're now so intense. Like if I said to my kids, if I presented that to them and said it was scientifically proven, they would take me to task on it. I think generations would take me to task on it because we've been told that it's the opposite. So that fact really stood out to me, like, huh? I've been looking for this fact for a long time. I want to be able to present it substantially to others. But yeah, I also want the link to watch it again and to share it. It's pretty amazing. Thank you for bringing it to our attention.
Yeah.
Of course. I put it in the chat. I'll also share it to the page, our group page too.
Thanks.
Thank you. And I'll also pull out the book, Linda, and see if we can find further information that he discusses.
Okay. One thing, Linda, the question you're asking, Henry Louis Gates Jr., who does the show Finding Your Roots, where he traces the genealogy of celebrities, he did one with Lupita Nyong'o. And in her DNA, he said that she is from that mitochondrial Eve. That is in her DNA. And I'm sure probably if you go there and maybe do a little more research from there, you'll probably find what you're looking for.
Thanks.
Fascinating. Thank you, TC.
If I've been part of a 4-day intensive retreat since 2008. And towards the end of day one, a group of anywhere from 20 to 50 people are in kind of a semicircle looking at each other, have been talking through the day, have been speaking up, have been called upon. And so the guy the main teacher will say, look around the room, and you've noticed people in the room who you feel drawn to, and other people maybe not so much drawn to. So look around the room and get a feeling for kind of as you've kind of sized people up through the day. Now, I'm going to count to 3, and on 3, I want everyone to stand up and automatically go to the person you're least drawn to. And so it throws people off so fast, and like people are like so confused, like, what do I do? And then they feel like if I go to this person and say, I'm least drawn to you, then it's supposedly rejection or something like that. And then that becomes your buddy. That person becomes your buddy for the rest of the training, all the way to the end of the 4th day. And what people find out is the person that I was least drawn to in the room is actually so much like me. And we have this thing in us where we size people up and call people aliens and not with us. And so I've been a part of this process, my gosh, 30, 40 times. And it's always really fascinating to see how people hook up to become buddies in this system, and then how much in common they really have found with each other at the end of it. So
I love that. Thank you for sharing, Chris. That's powerful. Anybody else?
I don't know. I feel like he painted with some pretty broad strokes, especially the transition from tribal identity to religious identity to national identity. That I don't necessarily know that that's true. Yeah, I know, especially at least outside of the US or outside of the West, I know there are a lot of groups that identify much more with their religious or even tribal identity than their national identity. And then even within countries, like even within the United States, I think people, I don't know, it seems like very broad and very weird that he stopped there, because I think it's very clear that in the United States, people have empathy and alliances within their religious identity and racial identity as well. So yeah, my biggest question was, after hearing it, was how does racism and current and also historical, like very non-empathetic treatment of people from the African continent and other people of color, like how does that fit into all of this? It was like a very hunky-dory, like we're empathetic with different people, and grazed over a lot of very blatant instances of, and extreme instances of non-empathy. And the other thing that was hard for me was he talked a lot about how we have this really great capacity for empathy, and he just didn't address the gap between, it was maybe like 1 or 2 lines, but to me they're on national levels, on cultural levels, and on individual levels, like Chris was saying, there's so many instances where we do not empathize with people, even though the monkey with the nut experiment would tell us that our brains empathize, but maybe we don't empathize in action. I don't know. So I feel like he had this great, like, idealistic, it would be great if we could actually all act that way, but how? He didn't connect those dots as to, it's like, there's this capacity, go have fun, do it. That's not how it works. So yeah, those are the 2 biggest things for me.
I love all of that, and I resonate with all of that. I think the only thing he seemed to say within at least that script, right, of his summation of his book, was he mentioned right towards the end, and again, it all went really fast, how we repress these things. And why do we repress them? I forget what he wrote, or what the artist at least wrote on with the hand. He said we repress this idea of empathy, which should be the first move, and instead we pull back and push into narcissism and utilitarianism.
Yeah, like I would love a whole TED talk on how to not how to unrepress, or how to not repress, how to unlock your empathy, which sounds like a very cheesy book, but
yeah.
Sorry.
No, I think it's hard when there's so much fear, right? That's being pushed at us. And I think so that's like our go-to is like, how do you mask fear through all of those, just reactionary things instead of being curious about, I love how he's, like empathy is grounded in the acknowledgement that life is fragile. And so like we are seeing that like many people in our country don't, from my perception, see that life is a gift or fragile, and just thinking about that fear piece in relation to empathy, and how, like, I don't know, just it's got me thinking.
I think fear does something chemically to our brains, and I know trauma does, and staying in a state of fear for extended period of time does as well, which I think probably relates to the inability to feel empathy. It's actually something going on physically as well as emotionally, as far as I understand. There was one other thing I was gonna, it kind of relates and kind of doesn't. I was listening to kind of a woo-woo healing thing a long time ago, but one of the things that she said was that when during World War II, when the bomb was dropped, all of humanity through collective consciousness, which sounds more like it's somehow mitochondria is communicating beyond, there's something going on beyond our physical bodies, but that we recognized as a human race that we had the ability to wipe ourselves out. And a whole new level of fear entered the collective consciousness at that period of time, which might also have something to do with where we stand today. But those are just my 2 comments.
Linda, and I'm thinking, what would it take to cause the opposite, right? What would it take to cause for us to understand, to have that collective consciousness, to be aware of how life-giving we can be, not just death-dealing, right? But how we are responsible to and for and with each other.
Yeah, how do we flip this thing over?
Yeah. I'm going to quickly just read some of the thoughts that I had, because I've sat with this and been able to sit with it a little bit longer. And I'd love for us to come back to this at our next gathering next month. But for me, one of the things that stuck out that he says was that to empathize is to civilize. And it's what some of you are already speaking to in your commentary. So that means to me, like, to empathize is to humanize, at least when it comes to applying our empathy towards other people and to each other. So maybe a better way to state that, at least for me, would say to empathize is to divinize, to recognize the possibility of each other and the world, the accessibility, the magic in each other and the world around us in such a way. Some of us call that the divine, right? That magic, that quality. And if we can recognize that, no matter what we call it, I think that begins to cause us to want to care more, to lean in, to trust, to want to grow, to change, to offer support to people or to the world, right, when we can. And so I think I and this whole Imaginarium team that works, we're trying to find ways, to Leah's point, for us to personally own responsibility and as a community to better engage with each other in the world, especially in light of this happening tragically in our world right now. And I think, and this video hopefully prompted for all of us in a positive way, that empathy and choosing to empathize can be a way and something that can push us and move us forward, which is what we want. And so he mentioned, in the illustrator wrote, like, empathy being the invisible hand. And as he noted, that is in direct opposition to the idea that the economy is the invisible hand. So it's competing against that idea then that money is what makes our world go round. And that feeds into, right, patriarchy and hierarchy, as we've talked more, and capitalism, all these things. But Jeremy, I think, is offering, and I resonate with this, that no, it's actually our connection, our interdependence is what keeps us going and actually moving us forward. It is also then what carries us and connects us. And so, again, to Leah's point, and so many of you, what do we do with that? I think we can't ignore each other, right? We have to learn to stop denying other people their humanity, and even more so their fullest humanity, right? Which includes not only those we have intentionally, or society has intentionally or unintentionally marginalized from the center of the world's focus. It also includes those who maybe live in the center, but we often don't want to, acknowledge, or because their viewpoints, right? They frustrate us, they disgust us, they compete against our ideals and our worldview. And yet I think empathy is asking us to also find ways to include their humanity too, right? And that is the challenge. You might have noted, and you just brought up, some of you, how Jeremy, he's talking about the blood and soil ties, right? And that to me, and the nation ties, that to me seems to be so much right now of Trump's agenda, and the obvious sort of white supremacist agenda that's happening in our world and our nation. And I think as we combat that idea, again, we still have to try to find ways to include those people. That is our empathy being at work, right? And so the questions that I'm left asking myself, and I want to put in front of us, is who is it that we have not tried to understand? That would be our empathy at work. Who is it that we as a community, for those of us who call this space home, who is it that we are missing, that we are not including, that we need to better see and hear? What then are the next steps, as Leah asked? Like, okay, so now what? Right? Because I think empathy, true empathy, is going to lead to movement and to action. Our learning, anytime we're learning, we're hearing other people's stories, that's going to move us. That's going to draw us, to lure us to actually then engage with the world, with each other differently and better, right? That's going to encourage, hopefully, our creativity. And that creativity, that idea that we still have a constant opportunity and possibility to create things new, to create things better that can be more liberating, not just for us personally or our small groups, but for all of us. So I think when we begin to grasp these things, we'll stop sort of paying attention more so to the symptoms and start looking at the larger problems. I think, yeah, there's so many small fires that so many of us get attracted to, and we jump on, and I'm just as guilty as anybody. Like, let's jump on that social media post and get into an argument that's focused on like small fights versus focusing on these larger battles, right? Which are the larger causes, these massive fires, wildfire, if you will, the analogy that need to be assessed. And so again, I'm asking, how can we recognize how we sometimes participate in these systems, how we participate in scarcity mentality instead of abundance, and how our unwilling or us not being able to recognize that our participation with some of this helps to solidify these systems to keep going, right? And they're working against us and against the world. And so instead, how do we keep backing up and saying, how can I affirm or reaffirm my own worth and magic and yours, like whoever's in front of you, right? How can I work to reaffirm your worth and your magic today, and also mine? How can we ask empathetically, as sort of Chris brought up in this example, okay, this person that I am least attracted to, if you will, how can I begin to ask, either literally or figuratively, what is it like to be you? What is it like to live in your shoes? And to know, as we even begin to ask that question, we're never going to fully grasp that, right? We'll never fully understand what it means to walk. You can't walk a mile in someone's shoes. You have to have walked every single step to truly understand their perspective, but we can begin to better understand and to lean in. So I think when we start to do all of that, those are steps. They're beginning steps, okay, if you will, as Leah's challenging us. Like, they're beginning necessary steps to take this idea of empathy and take this ideal that we believe here at Imaginarium, like inherent magic, inherent connection, inherent responsibility, and what Jeremy's posturing in this book, in this video. Like, I believe that our first impulse is to empathize, and somehow we're repressing that. So maybe you don't believe that, and that's okay too. But if we do believe that, then how are we actively trying to live out of it every day? So that's my challenge. And I think in light of this season that is so traumatic, right? And the lack of actual proximity, that we can't really be face to face and close with the people that we love, or even people that we don't love. But this pandemic is forcing us and offering us, I think, a reminder of the power of self, right? The power that's within us, our capacity, our agency to be able to do things differently, to be able to be okay. Unfortunately, that you can't get face to face with each other in this moment, that we're still going to be okay. And when we know we're not okay, to reach out, as someone in this community did this week, saying, hey, I need a hug, whether I can actually get that physically or not. I'm owning that I need something, and to watch others respond, to watch others push in. That was a beautiful just example, I think, this week. And this is what we hope for with Imaginarium and this community from the very beginning. To help us understand those inherent worth, connection, responsibility, and realize that life keeps bringing us opportunities to learn these things and to put them into practice, if we are but paying attention. So I challenge us that we keep paying attention. And I'd love for us to keep discussing this at our next gathering. Right now, I want to get on, if we can, just to a little bit of celebration in light of our 3 years. And thank you for that dialogue and discussion and all of your amazing words and additions to what we learned, we heard about today. Okay, so many people have been seeds, if you will, that planted into this vision in the very beginning and have continued to plant something into who we are, and helped expand us into who we have become and who we continue to become. And I found this Facebook post. It was one of the first Facebook posts that we did. This was June of 2017. We didn't have an official gathering until August 30th, but in June, I wrote this, and I want to read it to us. It says, friends, I want to continue to explain what Imaginarium is, because it was hard to wrap your head around. It still is. Anna Skates and I, Anna was the other co-founder, understand that people can't quite wrap their heads around what it is, because honestly, we don't think it's ever been done before. It is our hope to pull together people from different belief systems who can agree on honoring the values of love, courage, humility, and a standard of ethical living and morality that is not defined first and foremost by a doctrine or a religious tradition. Instead, one that makes room for all of them if they bring us to the same goal of a healthy and abundant life. So this is definitely a spiritual community, and it's definitely not a church, which we had to keep saying over and over and over, and still sometimes do. Many of the things that we've all experienced as beautiful, and for those of us that started in a church experience, we wanted to continue and carry over. But this was our vision thus far. We envision meeting twice a month on a non-Sunday morning for a formal gathering with arts, music, teaching, and discussion. We envision meeting on the other weeks for opportunities for pure fun, the art of play, savoring life, for service projects, book clubs, anything that can enhance and nourish your and your family's lives. We envision this to be an online community, what it's become. We envision this to be very intentionally multi-generational. We envision a consistent focus on how will this, various different experiences together, affect our lives this week? How can you challenge to live better, healthier, and more loving? We envision continuing to push back on biases, unhealthy structures and systems in our nation and our world that hinder life and justice for all people and for creation. We envision standing for restorative justice, equality for women, LGBT plus inclusion, racial equality, and more with both our words and our deeds. We will welcome all people. We will remind all people of their inherent worth. We envision a structure and a business model that includes partnerships and support from people and from the community. Y'all, this dream is an expansive one, and we will need all of you to help us carry it out. Please let us know your dreams, your needs, and your questions. Let's start imagining and creating this place together. That was June 3.5 years ago, and here we are literally embodying all of these things and more so. I reached out to a couple friends to see if they could share some words of encouragement to us, and I'm gonna share my screen. Let me get this down. Oops, sorry. Oh, cancel. Okay, here we go. This is Anna Skates, the co-founder.
Hi, everybody. It's Anna. For those that don't know me, I am the other co-founder of Imaginarium. And Melissa asked me to record a little video if I had time. Just words of encouragement and reflections on the last 3 years, which it's honestly insane that it's been 3 years since we started this. Of course, the vision of Imaginarium has been around for longer than that, but it all started officially 3 years ago today, which is really exciting and beautiful to think back on and think about. And one thing, I know for me, this whole thing started out of this idea, of course, of collectively imagining a better world and making it so, right? Creating a community around that idea. But something that ended up being really transformative for me, even as the co-founder, out of my own experience of being part of Imaginarium actively, was it's not just about collectively imagining and collectively acting. It's also about finding your personal place in that imagining and finding your personal place in that better world, and then doing your part personally to make it so. So like for me, I knew exactly what my passion was, my sort of life's calling, right? And it is in my mind a life calling that leads to a better world. And so then if I'm to take Imaginarium's sort of mantra really, like truly, literally, then it's my personal responsibility, right, to live into my own sort of magic and my own sense of purpose, to find my place in that better world and to do my part to take personal responsibility to make it so. And so that's what I did, and that's what I've been doing ever since. And that was a really transformative piece for me. So not just being part of this beautiful community that collectively does this work, but also finding my own personal place in that work, right? Finding my slice of the world that I am to make better, and then to do that, to take on that responsibility and actually make it better. So I hope that in this community, in these 3 years or however long you've been with us, that you are finding not only the beauty of community in that, but that you're also finding some some sense of purpose or some sense of your role in that better world, or in your own imagining of a better world, even if it's just your own world, your little slice of the world, whatever betterment is that slice, finding your role in that and taking responsibility and just pushing forward and taking action in that. I hope you're finding that in this community as well. This has been a really interesting and lovely 3 years, and I think about Imaginarium all the time, obviously, and I miss being part of the active community, but I am taking our call seriously and literally and personally, and so I am imagining a better world and living into it and making it so, and I know you are too. Just by being part of this community, you are. So glad you're here. Congrats on 3 years. We did it.
That was Anna. Then we've been able to host some lovely speakers over the past 3 years, and we always wanted to have a very open door platform where it was never just me or one person talking and teaching, but it was inviting in other voices, much like all of the practices that we do, and much like dialogue is the center of all of our gatherings. We always wanted to hear from others, and we've been blessed and grateful to be able to bring in some friends from out of town too. And so this is Miss Paula Stone Williams, who was one of our very first guests in the first year.
Hi, everyone at Imaginarium. Congratulations on your 3rd anniversary. Just last week, I was speaking to a group of a couple of hundred CEOs. We were talking about creating something from scratch. We were talking about faith communities. You were asking me if I knew of faith communities like yours around the country. And I said, you know what? I know of exactly 2, one on the West Coast and one in Nashville. And I said, the one in Nashville, I have this special affinity for. It's the people. It's the way they look at their own lives and the spiritual journey together. I'm so excited. This is your 3rd anniversary. I'm so excited with what you bring to your region. God bless as you continue your healthy life together.
Thank you, Paula. Then we've had some amazing sort of conversation partners that have either been strict conversation partners with me as a leader, helping me to be deeply accountable to leading this space in a way that's curating in a non-hierarchical way, or we've had deep conversation partners as a team. But this gentleman, Josh Graves, has been my personal conversation partner, and he's the pastor of Otter Creek, and he not only continues to speak into my life and hold me accountable as a leader, he's also a dear friend to Imaginarium. Otter Creek has opened up their space to us to allow us to meet there for various events and have choir rehearsals and things where we were signing and writing things to our government here in Nashville. Anyways, Otter Creek's been amazing, and it's all because of Josh, and he's a friend, and he's also on the board of Faith and Culture, and I'm really thankful for him. So he sent us a message.
Imaginarium, 3-year anniversary. That's incredible. I can't believe how fast it's gone. Congratulations to Melissa and everyone who makes Imaginarium go. Keep dreaming, keep being hopeful, be tenacious in your joy, spread the light. Lord knows we need more of it. Again, thank you so much for the work that you do. This is Josh Graves, Otter Creek Church. Happy 3-year anniversary.
It's so perfect that he has like a bed of music playing underneath him. It's like the perfect Christian pastor. Josh is great. Love it. Another deep friend of ours. Oh, I don't have it pulled up. I will find it. Here is someone who is on our board and is the pastor of Grace Point Church currently. This is Josh Scott. Oh, let me start over.
Hello, Imaginarium. Josh Scott here, and I wanted to stop by and take a minute to wish you a happy 3rd birthday. I cannot believe that it's been 3 years already. It has been such an honor to be a part of the board for this community. It's been incredible to watch you as you've grown, to watch as you've engaged in the world, to see the goodness that's been created from your community. And so today, I just want to stop by and celebrate you. To celebrate the way you embody your values in the world in such a way that it leaves the world better than it found it. Mel, I'm so proud of you and so proud of the beautiful work you're doing there. And so Imaginarium, as you lean into this next year, this next 3 years, the next 10 years, as you lean into that, my hope for you is that you will continue to collectively imagine the better world and to intentionally seek to make it so. Congratulations again, and I wish you the best as you celebrate today and as you move forward as a community. Grace and peace.
Love it. I love at least that our tagline sticks. We may not have the perfect way to do our elevator pitch, but at least our tagline sticks with most people. Okay, I have 2 more quick messages. And again, hopefully these are meaningful to you if you've been a part of our community for a short amount of time or a long period of time. These are people that continue to invest in who we are. Okay, this is share screen. It was hiding. There we go. Maybe. There we go. All right, this is Martin Espinoza. He is the co-pastor of Ray of Hope Church over in Antioch, Tennessee. He's been a deep conversation partner for us as Imaginarium. Many of us go and support things that happen at his lovely English community that he and his wife lead over in Antioch. And this is, I'll give you commentary after he's done. No matter how many times he's been to Imaginarium, he's spoken here, he still wants to call us a church. I'm not gonna shame him for that, but it's funny.
Well, greetings to my Imaginarium family. This is Pastor Espinoza at the Ray of Hope Community Church in Nashville, Tennessee. Just sending you all of the blessings of peace, of prosperity, of longevity as you celebrate your 3rd year anniversary as a ministry, as an organism, as a spiritual support system. I am grateful for my friendship and partnership with your pastor. We praise God for Melissa and for her leadership of Imaginarium. I am ever mindful of what it means to dare greatly. And to be a great leader, you definitely have to be willing to fantasize about the future and what the future holds in stores for the people of God. So I'm grateful for just being able to share the conversations that I have been able to share there at Imaginarium and make the small deposits that I have been able to make. But certainly the emotional and intellectual banter that is so much a part of what it means to grow in ministry. It is often said that if you want to see a person's potential for success, look at their conversational partners. And I believe Melissa has great conversational partners. She certainly is a leader who tries to keep her finger on the pulse of what is relevant, what is real, in some cases what is unimaginable, but nevertheless, that's what hope does. Hope allows us to creatively imagine alternative realities, and that is what I see her doing with Imaginarium. I trust and pray that you all are surviving COVID-19. It is a pandemic unlike anything that we have ever seen or imagined. It has accelerated so many of the things that the church did not want to address nor deal with. And I feel that you all are positioned under your great leadership to be a ministry, an entity, an organism that will last way beyond this pandemic. May God bless you. May God keep all of you. May God make God's face to shine upon each and every person connected with Imaginarium. And may God in heaven grant you peace. Amen.
Such kind words from Martin. Okay, one last video from my dear friend and so many of your friends. He was really the conversation with him was the impetus for this vision, and for me wanting to be a part of a community and later try to create a community with all of you where Daoud and I could be in community together. That's what I wanted, that's what I longed for, and I'm so thankful that Daoud continues to be a part of our board and a conversation partner. He's spoken many times at Imaginarium, and he's definitely our friend. This is him.
Hello to my Imaginarium community. Congratulations on 3 years since our first gathering. I recall early on Melissa saying, I want to be in community with Daoud and persons like him. And the same was, is, and remains true for me today. The purest form of truth, I believe, lies in how we choose to live out our convictions. This is most beautifully expressed in relationships with humans who don't necessarily reflect our own image, and believing that their image is one of God as well. These gatherings help us grow individually and collectively, so we may continue to come together in humility, respect, develop greater understanding with empathy, so we may always act with compassion towards one another, all the while inviting others to share in this phase with their journey as well. Thank you for inviting me and allowing me to be a part of the community. I look forward for the years ahead. Congratulations.
That's it, y'all. We did it. 3 years, and I'm so thankful because so many of you have just stumbled upon us recently, and we are so honored that you're here with us. And so many of us literally started this together in my living room, dreaming together and with a whiteboard and figuring out not just what we wanted to do, but what we could do, what were the possibilities of what we could create together. And so it's literally all because of you, and I am so, so grateful. So I'm going to ask you to unmute yourselves. If you have a drink, pull it out.
Melissa, really quick.
Yes, JJ.
One thing, on behalf of, I'll speak for myself, but also probably on behalf of everybody on here, is congratulations to you personally for leading this well, and for every week, processing through how can we challenge each other and continue to dialogue and make the world a better place. And you lead us so well, and into difficult areas and fun areas. And I know that it is a lot of work on your behalf, even if, we see you 1 hour a week or 1 hour and a half or 2, but thank you. Thank you for this dream, and thank you for continually pushing us forward. You walk right beside us all the time. You're not out in front like pulling or like trying to do some kind of dictatorship, but you walk literally beside us and push us forward from the side and behind all the time, encouraging us to continue to be our best version of ourselves and make the world the best version that it can be. So congratulations to you specifically as part of this, and thank you for all you do for us.
Thank you. Thank you for those words and for making me cry. Okay, I have champagne. You might just, it's not about being alcohol or not. A toast is literally taking a moment to honor life in each other and in the world. And so I'm going to quickly pour, at least my mom and I. Oops, spilling. My dad. I appreciate you taking an hour and 15 minutes to be with us on this Sunday afternoon. The next official gathering that we have is actually a seat at the table, joined with Faith and Culture Center. Not next weekend, it's the following Sunday after that. And we did that. So many of you were on that call the first time, and the only negative feedback we got is that we all needed a little bit more time to talk together. And so this one's going to be 2.5 hours. So we'll do all of our practices, then we'll have space to get into the rooms together, break out into breakout rooms, and have time to really get to know one another and talk. So please join us for that. We'll gather again the end of the month for our normal gathering. You can find all of these things on our Facebook page. facebook.com/Imaginarium community. We're doing a Zoom dance party on a Saturday night where literally you show up like this. You can have your video on or not. I'll play some great music and we'll dance and have fun and enjoy life. We always have happy hours, which are just community times on Wednesday afternoons from 5 to 6:30ish. And we would love for you to always be there. No content on Wednesdays. It's just literally cooking together, laughing, talking about our week. Okay, a toast. A toast to the journey thus far, a toast to all of you, a toast to all that we have learned, a toast to how much more we will be able to learn, a toast to creating a better world and intentionally making it so individually and collectively together. Cheers.
Cheers.
Cheers. Thank you for being with us, y'all. We appreciate you so much. Come back.
Appreciate you, Melissa.
Thank you
Love
for
y'all.
having me. I've really enjoyed it. It's been inspiring.
Thank you. Glad you showed up, Christy.
Thank you for coming.
We love you.
Bye,
Melissa.
y'all.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Bye,
Enjoy
all.
your